Let's see how to build this comma-separated input component in Next.js. We'll see how to submit this information to the server using server actions and how to correctly parse this information from the form data. Lastly, there's some challenges in handling a relationship between something like tags and deals like we do in dealsfordevs.com. So at the end, I'll show you how I solve this using a pretty neat query in Prisma to make sure that you're handling that relationship correctly. All right, so I'm inside of VS Code and I have a command in here called new next. This is just going to create a new next project. We call this comma separated input demo. And I take all the defaults here. So I'm going to use TypeScript, ESLint, add Tailwind, source directory, app directory, and not customize the import aliases. So one of the things I'm going to do is kind of dump in a few components for us to work with. One is going to be a loader. One is going to be a tag to actually represent an individual tag. And the other is going to be a component for the tags list. Now this is basic styles in Tailwind. Just for layout purposes, it's not the actual logic of what we're building. So we'll get to that eventually. So let's open this up inside of VS Code. So let's search for that project, and the -r command in here will open this up in the same window that we're in. So we have a brand new Next.js project. We can run this and start to preview it with npm run dev, and then we'll just get that open at localhost 3000. All right, so there's our starter Next.js application. And then what we want to do is just kind of rip out all the stuff that we don't need. So inside of here on the page, I'm going to grab everything in between the two main tags and just get rid of that. And then we'll get rid of these styles as well. That way we can kind of start from scratch. On the layout page, I think we can probably leave this basically the same. Okay, that should work. So one thing you might want to know is the source code for the Deals for Devs project is available on GitHub. So I'll put a link to this in the description below. But this is a public repository, Deals for Devs, and it has inside of there all the fully in-depth logic for handling this comma-separated input. So we have basically nothing inside of our page right now, and we can start to give a little bit of styles to this, just really basic stuff. So we'll do background gray of 900. We'll set a min height of screen, which means it'll take up at least the height of the screen, and then we'll add some vertical padding in here. And then inside of main, we'll have a container, and I'm going to use the emit snippet here. I don't know if you've used emit snippets before, but we can just do dot and then kind of add our classes. So max width 2XL and then dot mx auto, and then enter will now populate that as classes on a div. And then inside of this, we'll have an H1, and maybe we'll just take the styles that they have here. That's fine. And we'll just give this name of comma separated input. Cool, and that ought to be kind of enough for now. Now I mentioned there were a couple of different components that I'm going to copy in. So let me go ahead and grab those and let's put them inside of the source directory inside of a components directory, and then I'll just paste these in. So really quickly, a loading, this is just gonna be kind of a loading indicator that we can use. This is pretty simple. I think this is just a copy and paste from Tailwind docs. We also have a submit button. Now, the reason we have the submit button is so that we can leverage the use form status. We'll come back to that and actually get a pending state while we're submitting this through using actions. Other than that, it's a basic button, and it just shows the loading indicator that we just saw if we're pending, if we're submitting, or it just shows the text that comes in as a prop to this component. And then for the individual tag, we need to install React icons. And we just have the kind of X times thing here to use as a delete button. So inside of the tag, it takes a piece of text that it actually displays, and then it also has a handle delete that will get called as a callback if and when the user clicks on the X button. That way they can back out of tags after they added one if one is incorrect, etc. So that is fairly straightforward. And then the tags list is similar. We take a list of strings. We then iterate through and basically display a tag and then pass in handle delete so that we can kind of pass this up to the parent form, which we'll come back to in a second. So basically handle delete allows us to propagate this up to the form that we're actually working in, that is keeping the state of all the tags. So that said, we can go ahead and create the form. So we'll create the form TSX, and then I've got snippets in here. RFC will create a new React component for me. And then inside of this form, we want to have a basic form. And then inside of here, we're going to have our two things. We'll have the comma separated input component, which we'll build in a second. And then we'll also have a submit button with just 2T or just 1T to start. And then the text in here will be to submit. So that should be good. So now we want to build, now that we have kind of the base pieces in here, now we actually want to build the comma separated input component. Now I'm kind of realizing this as I'm doing this. I'm not making this super generic because I'm going to hard code the fact that like this comma separated input is for tags, etc. So you could pass in additional props and kind of call this whatever you want, or like take in props to have this be whatever type of data you want. But in this case, we're just going to kind of get started and hard code this for now. So inside of here, we're going to start with a parent div, and we're going to have a label for this. So let's go ahead and do our label. And this is going to be for the tags input, and then we'll have a few classes on this. And I think I just got some ChatGPT configured stuff before, but we'll have font extra light, and then we'll have a text of 2XL, and we'll have this be blocked so it takes up the entire space. And we'll just call this, give it a text of tags. And then next, we're going to have our inputs. We'll take the autocomplete in here and see what it gives us. I don't actually know. So this will be a type of text, ID, name of tags, yes. And then we'll have, I'll just copy over these styles. So we're not having to do this all manually ourselves. So basic styles in here, make sure we have focus ring so that it's accessible as people tab to it. It'll be obvious that it is being focused on. All right, so I think that's it for now. We will we'll come back and update more inside of this component in a second, but we should be able to throw this inside of our form, comma separated input. And then on the home page, we should be able to put underneath our H1 our actual form. I couldn't come up with a better name for that. I don't know. Just really struggled. So what would you call that form component? I don't know. Whatever. So let's just see if this is all showing up. So looks like, okay, there we go. So that is showing up. We have our submit button, we have our tags, etc. So now we can kind of get into the core logic with our tags. And what we're going to want to do is have an onChange handler. So we'll have onChange, and this will be a function that we will define called handle input change. And so let's go ahead and create that function above, because what we're going to need to do is kind of listen for each individual change and see if the user inputs a comma, basically. So we can get the current input, and we can get this from e.target.value. Now I'm also going to go ahead and do some work on this to trim it, and then also to lowercase this. Now the lowercase part is like if I'm saving these tags in a database, I want to make sure that if I create one called React uppercase and you create one that's React lowercase, I don't want those to be two separate records in the database. I want those to match. So I'm going to hard code lowercasing all of these inputs, and this will be event here. So that's the current input. And what we want to look at is the last letter, and ChatGPT is going to give me lots of insights here, but our last letter is going to come from the current input, and then it is going to be the current length -1. So it's going to get that last letter. You could also use slice -1. So current input slice -1. So it'll go from the back -1 and then go to the end, which will just be the last letter. So then we want to check if the last letter equals comma, then we can grab the tag saying it's everything up to the last character and then log the tag. So this will go there and this will go here. Cool. So we got to get formatting on that. Oh, and the next couple of things we need to do is actually mark this as a use client, since we're going to define that function there. That ought to make that error go away. And then we'll actually need to handle this inside of the form as well. So both of those will be client components. So we should just be able to see if we open up our console, go to console here and start to type in React, nothing, and then comma, we should see that this actually gives us the actual tag. So that's good. What happens now if we type in view and then comma though, is it's got all of this. So it's just taking up until the last letter. So what we want to do is we want to keep track of the input, and we want to kind of delete the tag after it's been added. and update the input. So we need to keep track of that inside of state. So we'll call this tag input and have our setter set tag input and then use state of empty string. That'll work. And then for that, we'll need to set the value of this to the tag input. And then we can start to update our actual tag input. So we can set the tag input and we can set it to an empty string. So what we're forgetting though is we need to save the tag somewhere. So we'll come back to that in a second. So what we should be able to do now is do React. Oh, we also need to update our tag input every time we have the change. So I think we can just do this up here to the current input, and that goes away. So as we do these commas, that seems to be working and it's logging those out over here. Cool. So now we need to keep track of the actual tags themselves. So all of the tags that are here. So let's create another use state for our tags, and they've got it. GitHub Copilot has it here. So we'll take the tag and actually we'll set tags, and then we will spread out the existing tags and add on the new one. So let's get rid of this and let's get rid of this input. All right, so that will keep track of these. We won't be able to see this yet, but if we do React, View, Astro, etc., now we hope we're actually saving those into that state behind the scenes. So now what we can do is actually take those tags and then display them. So inside of our comma separated input, we could just have these be displayed at the bottom of the actual input. So we can take our tags list component that we created, and then we can pass in the tags, and then we may do like a margin top 4 and margin bottom of 8 to give this little breathing room, and that should just live in there. So what we're hoping now is as we type in, actually it already shows, so as we type in React, etc., we can see that that is showing up at the bottom. Now you can see that the X button, the delete button, is not showing. That's because that's conditional based on passing the handle delete. I did that in the other project so that I could have used the same component to show a list of tags just for display purposes, and then have a version that was for input and being able to delete it from the input. So let's, we're gonna need to create this function, and this function up above, we will create. And then inside of here, we're gonna accept a parameter of the tag itself that is supposed to be deleted. And then we're gonna set the tags to basically filter, and I think we could autocomplete that, yes. So we're gonna take the existing tags, we're gonna filter those based on keeping any of the tags that doesn't equal the tag that's passed in here. Then we'll set the tags with the updated array of tags. So we see these, we should be able to get rid of them. There's React, we could add it back. React here, cool, get rid of view, and then we could add these again, React, etc. Now, one of the things we might want to do is just check to see if the tag already exists, so we're not able to create the tag twice in this input. So we can do this inside of our handle input change, inside of here. So after we get the tag, we can say if tags.index of the tag equals -1, that means it's not found. Then we will add this to the array of tags. So just one more condition to say, if the tag that the user has typed in is not inside of the array already, then go ahead and add it to the array. So what we'll see is if we get rid of this React and then try to add it again, it's funny, it actually did both of those, which makes sense. You would need to have like a unique ID if you had duplicates that you needed to handle. But we could do React and then React again. That should just wipe out the input and not add it to the list of tags. So that's really cool. Now let's start to think about how do we submit this inside of our form to an action. And so inside of our source, we can add a new file called actions. And this will run on the server. And then we'll have our function submit tags action. And this is going to be an async function. Actions by default take in form data. So we'll take in the form data. And there are some tricks in here of how to work with that. And then we'll just close this out. Now, I like to define like return vals for these. So what does the data look like that we're returning? And in this case, we'll have a success boolean and we'll have a message string. And then we can say in here, this is going to return a promise since it's an async function of return val. All right, and then at the end of this, we'll just hard code this to return this object with success true and tag submitted successfully for the message, I think. So we're not actually saving this to a database, although I will talk about some of the challenges with working with this relationship in the database in Deals for Devs. I'll show you that at the end of the video. But for now, we're just going to return back that this was successful. So the question here is, how do we get an array of tags from an input? And this is a challenge because if we look, this input is actually empty. So we can't actually reference that. But what we can do is for each one of these tags that we can create a hidden input field that actually gets submitted to the backend. So let's go back into our comma separated tags and let's go above the tags list and we'll just take our tags. We'll iterate through each tag and then return something. So that something is going to be a hidden input, and that's the thing that we're actually going to use to parse on the back end. So inside of here, we'll have an input tag. It'll be, I think this will autocomplete fairly well. Yeah, so type of hidden. Then we'll have the name. We'll have the name in here just be tag. And then we're going to use that to parse all of the properties or all of the inputs that have a name of tag on the back end. And this is type of hidden. Is that the same as, I've been using this attribute hidden. I don't know if type of hidden is the same thing. Maybe it is. Anyway, and then the value we're going to associate is with the actual tag. So if we save this and let's save our action, we're not using the action just yet, but let's save this and let's look inside of here. So right above this, we should see we have these hidden inputs for Vue and React. Awesome. So that means that ideally when we submit this form, when we click submit, it's going to submit that all the way to the back end, and then we're going to be able to parse that inside of our action. So inside of our action, how do we get this from the form data? So from here, we're going to say FormData.get all, and then we're going to get all that have a name of tag. And then from this, we're going to convert that to an array using array.from, and then assign this to tags. And if we're lucky, that will be all we need to get those tags on the back end. So now we need to actually set up the tags, the action on the front end. And we can do this directly inside of the form by saying action equals, and then we can call the submit tags action. So that should take care of kind of everything for us. So we can do React, Vue, Astro, Next.js, and let's submit this. And something happened. Let's see if we get a log on the back end. We do, and we actually see these logs or the tags coming through successfully. So React, Vue, and Astro. So that's great. Now, the one thing I don't like about actions by default, if you use an action kind of directly on the form like this, is almost always you're going to want to do some sort of client-side JavaScript. So what I often do is have a handle form submit function, and this will take in form data because it's going to be referenced as an action, and we'll do this. And then inside of here, we will call or pass our handle form submit, and then here we will do, we will call the submit tags action, pass in the form data like that. Cool. And then we'll get back a response. Now on this response, after we await it, you can see inside of here, if we make this an async function, you can see that this response now is going to be typed as return val. So we should be able to check if res.success, then what do you want to do? And one of the things that I love doing, it's like the easiest way, is installing React Hot Toast. And then we will add this to our layout. So anywhere inside of our layout, we can add the toaster, which is just a cool name by itself. And I think there's a couple different properties that you can set in there. I wonder if we'll just take the default. But then from that, we can take toast and get that import up there and call success with the res.message. So let's see what this is going to look like now. So let's refresh. and we'll have React View Next.js and submit. Tag submitted successfully. Now, the one thing that doesn't happen here is those tags don't reset. So I think we need to pull this into like a higher state to be able to wipe this out when the form gets submitted. So we could use a context, or we could just pull all the tags up here, whatever we wanted to do. We can move that around to be able to handle it. Because unfortunately, even if we reset the form, it doesn't then reset this component, if that makes sense. So anyway, there's some work that we would need to do that. But if you notice, we also did have a submit button. There's a little flash there that has the loading. So we didn't talk about that after creating it initially. But that button does have that pending state because it's inside of a form that uses an action. So that's one of the benefits of this as well. So that's the basics of creating a comma separated input. Now I want to talk about some of the tricky parts that happen with associating tags with deals in our deals for devs project. So let me run the local copy of this. This is at localhost 3001 now. And let's just go in. Let's go into the add a deal form. And so for each deal, you can add tags. So just like we saw in the very beginning of the video, just like we just did, we can see all these tags. Now, what happens is we're going to have multiple people creating deals, making up their own tags. So one of the things I want to have is an auto-populated list in here with existing tags. So you can choose from existing tags. Also, I want people to be able to create their own, but I don't want people to create their own and there be duplicate tags in the database. So how do we keep track of the relationship between tags and deals? We'll talk about that. How do we keep track of making sure there's not more than one instance of a given tag? And then how do we make sure, like if I am editing my deal and my tags and I change something, how do I make sure that doesn't change the tag for someone else that's already been created, if that makes sense? So there's a few different things to think about here, which is kind of a fun challenge. So let's start with looking at, in the source code, the Prisma schema. So I showed a screenshot of this at the beginning of the video, and inside of the tag, it has a relationship with deals. Now, what's kind of cool about this is an implicit relationship inside of Prisma, which means I didn't actually define this deal to tag table. Usually for a many to many relationship, and in this case, a deal can have many tags. A tag can belong to many deals, so it's many to many relationship. Oftentimes that means, or what that means is you have to create a intermediary table to be able to handle that relationship. Now I'm using Zeta as my database in here. It's a Postgres database and we're using Prisma as the ORM. So if I go into the deals for devs database and go into the dev branch, pretty cool that we can separate like instances by branches. Notice this has the deal to tag table. This is not something that I created. Prisma actually generated this for me by using their definition of an implicit relationship. So we define the relationship here and it creates that table for us. So you can see we have tags as a property listed inside of deal. And then down here, we have deal listed as, actually it should be deals rats. Okay, so I need to update that. Anyway, so from here, when we create, if we go to review deal, this is the last step, and then we actually submit the deal. Inside of here, we call the create deal function. Now what's cool is inside of tags, so this is the relationship. So we have our data, which is the new deal, and then we can pass in, since this is something that has a relationship, tags, and then we can use this connect or create. So there is a create property that you can say, just go and create this tag. In this case, we're using connect or create. And the reason is that we are looking at uniqueness based on the text property of the tag. So we're going to say, we're going to look for something where the text property already equals the tag that we're passing in. And if that thing exists, so basically where that thing exists, connect to it. So it already exists, connect to it. Or if it doesn't exist, create a new one. So this is pretty powerful, the connect or create, because it gives us the ability to do both of these in one shot, which is pretty neat. Now, the thing that I think gets the trickiest is when we go and update tags. So if we're updating tags for a given deal, let's say we have 3 tags, React, Vue, and Astro. If we get rid of Astro, if it has a relationship to Astro and we tell it, hey, just connect or create to these other 2, which are the 2 that it's keeping, it's not going to automatically get rid of the relationship to Astro, the one that we deleted. So we actually need to keep track of what are the original set of tags, what are the new set of tags, and then which ones of those are being deleted. All the ones that are not being deleted, we can call connector create. All the ones that are being deleted, we have to actually go and delete. So anyways, what this ended up being is inside of tags, we took, or inside of update, I created an array called tags to delete. And this comes from looking at the tags of the incoming deal and then looking at what the new tag should be and getting all of them that are not inside of new tags. So any tags that were previously on the deal that are not in the new set of tags that we're looking to update. And then you can see something really similar down here. We have the connector create based on the actual text property. So that works. And then we also have the delete mini property. And we can reference this with our tags to delete and then converting that to an array of objects that match the format of a tag. So this handles connecting to an existing tag if it's there, creating a tag if it doesn't exist, and then deleting a previous relationship if that relationship no longer exists. And most importantly, what this means, it doesn't affect anyone else's tag, or if other people are using the same tag, it's not deleting that tag, it's just deleting the relationship between this deal and that tag, so other deals can still have the relationship with that tag. That may sound like a lot. It's a little hard to kind of explain in words. I'm realizing that as I'm saying it, but it is an interesting challenge that I had to dig around a lot to get the syntax to do exactly what I was looking for here. But after I found it, I think it's pretty powerful. So all those use cases are taken care of. So if you're interested in latest deals for developers on courses, hardware, software, etc., you can check it out at dealsfordevs.com. You also have a link to the source code to Deals for Devs if you're interested in contributing. We also have a Discord channel inside of the Learn, Build, Teach Discord that you can find at learnbuildteach.com. So if you're interested in any of that, check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.